Metaverse Insiders interview series. My name is Josh, and in today's episode, we talk to David Palmer, the blockchain lead at Vodafone. In this interview, we discuss how the metaverse can be used to remove physical boundaries to create new experiences, and what industries will be most affected. Well, thank you for joining us today, David. We really appreciate your time. I must say, I was quite surprised to know how involved Vodafone actually is within the metaverse space.
Well, I think it's about communication, and it's about experience, and I think we've been through a few evolutions. So we've had the computing evolution, then we've had the internet evolution, the mobile evolution, and now we've got the metaverse evolution, which is coming around the same time as Web3 and AI, generative AI. I think they all come together. So from a mobile point of view, makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense because part of the metaverse it won't just be at home with goggles. It's going to be on the move, right? And how you have immersive experiences on the move, with the right data and connectivity, obviously is something that is going to be an important enabler.
Absolutely. Well, it takes corporations like Vodafone to actually help us get to where we need to be. So, can you please provide me with a brief background about yourself and how you got to working at Vodafone within this industry?
My background, I started off as a management consultant. So I worked on many what we call digital change projects over the years. Some of them including sort of broadband, satellite broadband, fiber to the premises, and then IoT. So with Vodafone, started with the IoT, then started looking at how that evolves, right? So how does IoT evolve? And then we started looking at this whole economy of things and interoperability and wallets, and that naturally led to blockchain. And now you're taking it a step further to say, okay, how can we, how do you pull all these things together? And I believe that the metaverse is a framework to pull all these technologies all these technologies, AI, blockchain, IoT, connectivity, all of these things together and focus on the customer experience. And that's how I'm now taking the step further to look at metaverse. And I believe there's different aspects of the metaverse. So you've got the metaverse experience for consumers, which you see the metaverse retail, you're seeing metaverse real estate, you're seeing metaverse concerts, metaverse ticketing, using things like NFTs as well. And I think that's great. But I think when you look at the size of the opportunity, which has been estimated, a lot of people are backing off these estimates now, but last year was estimated at 5 trillion. If we're going to get anywhere near that, then metaverse for business needs to be looked at, and the metaverse for business will involve things like supply chains, wholesaling, retail, logistics. It's going to have to span way beyond what we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah, it's definitely a time where there's a lot going on with so many technologies. It's almost quite difficult for us to exactly pinpoint at what point it's going to become mainstream. So, could you please elaborate for me on how Vodafone is strategically positioned for the onset of a mainstream metaverse?
Strategic positioning, I think over 400 million mobile subscribers, international presence, providing fast, reliable, secure data services, 160 million IoT devices, I think 22 operating companies across the globe, over 28 partner markets. I think what that sums up is the ability to do something now, and leverage the connectivity to do that. But I think before we look at it, I mean, a lot of us are still trying to figure out what the metaverse is, right? And there's different there's different versions of it, I mean, my definition, which I came up with last year, is a digital world which exists alongside the real world. So I think that's important. The digital world, we're not all going to go off into the metaverse. I think with COVID, there was this sort of movement that went that, we're going to do, we're going to travel in the metaverse, we're going to have meetings in the metaverse, we're going to work in the metaverse. And maybe at that particular time, that was necessary because we couldn't go out. But now I think you're seeing travel returning. You're seeing, exhibitions and conferences have record attendance. So people have sort of gone back to the real world in a big way. And I think that we can conclude the real world will exist and we will still be in it and we still will be using it. But actually, what we've got with the metaverse is another world that can add value, that can augment our real world experiences that exists alongside the real world. And at the moment, that world is the internet, which is very limited in terms of immersiveness and sensory capabilities and experience. And now we're taking it a step further with the metaverse, right? And it provides, as I said, this shared virtual reality experience, but also comes with its own economy. You're able to do a lot of economic things that you can't online or in the real world now in the metaverse. So there's an economy, there's new business models that will spring up from it, and it's interoperable. So this means that the metaverse needs to have interoperability with the real world and real world ecosystems, but also other ecosystems. So being able to travel across games, being able to travel across metaverse supply chains and retails and wholesales and different things. That interoperability, being able to take your identity and value, will be important. But it also has the concept of ecosystems and communities more in the metaverse, and that's my definition of what the metaverse is. And but it's evolving, right? Because I think now, if you're going to do that definition today, I think you'd have to put the words, open AI or generative AI in there, because you could argue that AI and the metaverse go together. And the metaverse is now AI's AI on Earth, meaning that it allows AI to assume a persona. It allows AI to interact with people in a real world setting, and that all of these things are important. When we're actually dealing with with new use cases and journeys.
Absolutely, David. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more about that. Well, when you were mentioning about augmented reality, I think that's so true because I can't imagine people be living as they do in the film Ready Player One, because the VR system is almost too aggressive, pretty much to the point where it's way too detached from our actual reality. But I do believe that augmented reality will probably be one of the more defining features of the metaverse. And as you said, it's about combining realities. So within Vodafone itself, do you guys currently have a greater focus on B2B or B2C?
So the area that I work in, so I'm co-founder and chief product officer for a new platform called the Digital Asset Broker. And basically that is focusing on B2B, B2B2C. So there will be some consumer in there in some of the use cases, but really it's about the B2B side and enabling the enabling businesses to have the sort of key tool sets to look at this. One of the areas that the digital asset broker looks at is what we call Internet of Things, or economy of things, as we put it. And we're taking that further now to look at the metaverse of things, right? So things like virtual car showrooms, looking at those whole sort of experiences where you add value, right? So a virtual car showroom, for example, can add value by replacing some of the functions and the resources used to power dealerships. Right. At the moment, we have some limited online sales, and I believe that's going up. But what about people want to experience, right? They want that immersiveness. They want to test drive. And the way you can start to do that by bringing in immersive technologies, i.e. metaverse technologies, then there's a real cost benefit in the mobility sector from it, and more inclusiveness, right? One of the key things that I see with the metaverse for business and consumers is removing geography. You remove physical boundaries and you remove geography. So online, yes, you can buy a car online, but you can't experience it. Right? If I want to test drive that car on the Nuremberg track or on Monzo track or whatever. I can't do it, right? I can get some of it, but not a truly immersive one. So where you get immersive technologies to the stage where you're getting a true experience, that removes geography, it removes physical boundaries, and it opens up whole new businesses, right? Whole new experiences and businesses that can start to with a value added case replace things that we're doing now, like car dealerships or test drives, and that whole thing. So those are sort of the areas that we're exploring. And we think there's going to be a lot more that can be done with but I believe that things are changing in the sense that last year, and I think it's amazing how much things can change in a year. Last year we would have said, right, we're building this big metaverse and it's going to be this massive project, and we're going to flick the lights on one day and we're going to have a big interconnected metaverse. And actually now you take a step back and you say, what were we thinking? Because actually you're going to have a number of projects, in areas where where it adds value. So it could be metaverse entertainment or metaverse, showrooms or metaverse learning, universities where you're actually solving a real problem. You've got some child in Zimbabwe or Cambodia or Philippines or whatever who actually qualifies for a university grant, can't travel there for whatever reason, right? The metaverse can actually allow that person to participate in a course. Now, yes, you'll say, right, you can do it now, but yes, are you actually going to do a physical operation or engineering or whatever collaboratively with other people? You can't do that now, but in the metaverse, you will be able to do that, right? So you're seeing the opportunity for the metaverse to actually remove geography and physical boundaries that can power new these new businesses. And I think that's how it's going to grow. Projects like that, individual projects, virtual car showrooms, universities, ticketing, and these will spring up, and eventually you'll connect them. But I don't believe you're going to have the metaverse being built as one big bang as you have the internet now. In fact, it goes back to the point: is the metaverse the next iteration of the internet? Yes, but it's also an evolution of the internet, which means it will happen over time in areas where it adds value.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you that as well. I don't necessarily believe that the metaverse is going to be one massive, open, interchangeable ecosystem where you can virtually walk through portals from website to website. I mean, if that's what they'll inevitably still be called. I mean, granted, many platforms will still utilize game engines to produce results of a similar caliber, but this most likely will not be a constant throughout the entire metaverse space. There must be certain boundaries.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And that is something that is very clear to me at the moment. And it's how organizations will approach this. What is the use case that we can start with? Is it ticketing? Is it B2B cases like the virtual car showroom? I mean, if you look at it, if you look at some of the studies that were breaking this down, testing test car drives, virtual retail, learning, advertising. I believe social media is going to be massive as well. Augmenting current social media will be massive. So I think these are some of the areas that you look at, and obviously it leads to a big question. For this to get adoption, how are you going to get people using it? And one of the biggest barriers at the moment is the headset. Headsets are expensive. And data, right? The sort of data apartheid that we have, right? Where you have some countries have fast data and they're in the AI models and they're getting these experience, and some don't, right? Are we going to have this sort of two wells of data as well? So these are barriers, and I believe that part of the adoption will have to be through the mobile. I was looking at some of this, and I was actually on a call yesterday, and I was being shown some sort of virtual reality stuff for retail. But what was beautiful about it, about this particular instance, is it wasn't the normal thing you see where you got to wear the goggles, right? This was, something you could look at through a mobile phone. If you really wanted a better experience, you could maybe put the goggles on, etc. So you can access the metaverse but you have different levels of experience and access. And this goes back to the point, for this to really work now and get adoption now, you have to have two things. One, it needs to be available through a mobile phone. And I believe the mobiles will meet you halfway, in the sense that I think they will start to evolve so that they can have more immersive technologies as well. But that's going to be important. And then the goggles need to evolve, which I think will happen. I think we're all anxiously awaiting the Apple headset, which is imminently, I think, scheduled for September or around then, but it's coming. And then, of course, you need to have some subsidy of the headsets as well, right? Because where the metaverse becomes a place of education or a place of business, it becomes a universal right. So how you subsidize access to it, how you redistribute wealth to have access, and how you subsidize things like headsets. Some of the same arguments we had with laptops, right? And people having laptops at school. So yeah, it's a wide thing, but it's exciting.
100%. So you mentioned a couple of different industries there, from education, retail, entertainment, and even healthcare. What would you say out of all those industries, or even other industries, are going to be most impacted by the metaverse, and which ones do you think will benefit the most from it?
That's a key one. So I think it depends on how you define impact. I I think learning, I think learning and education can be completely disrupted by the metaverse. Again, I was in a workshop a few weeks ago, and they said, what's the best way to travel to school? Are you going to use an EV? You're going to walk? You're going to whatever? How can we do this? So that we minimize the traffic. And I said, well, why do we need to travel to school? Meaning, yes, children do need interaction time, etc. But when you're looking at how you can maximize a teacher providing information or a lecturer providing information, actually, the metaverse makes the whole world the classroom, right? And again, we can do it now, but when you get into medical courses or engineering or biology and science, where you actually need some immersiveness and some collaboration and some real advances in how you collaborate. I believe that the metaverse and what I call metaverse learning and metaverse universities can fundamentally, help us to rethink that. I mean, why do we go to why do we all go and live in a university and go to campuses, right? Because we need to be near the resources, which are the books and the lectures. That's gone, right? That's gone now. And the metaverse will rubber stamp the capabilities that we have for that. So actually, you rethink it, just like cloud is allowing us to rethink whether we need to go to the office. The same way, I think the metaverse and cloud and sort of technologies we have now will allow us to completely rethink how learning is. And there's some good and bad things about that. I think one of the good things about it is that you start to remove geography. Right, so this means that I don't know if you remove cost, but you remove geography, because it means that anywhere in the world that you are, from any background, as long as you qualify, you can participate. Right now, if you can have more volumes and somehow maintain quality, i.e., more people in the classroom, does that drive the cost down? In which case, that the barriers, or the cost barriers to participate, also go down. Does it change the way do we need to actually do degree courses anymore? Do we need to do one thing from end to end? Can we just rethink the whole thing, right? And that is something where I think the metaverse for health could make a big difference, right? Do we have enough doctors, right? And do we need doctors in the same way we do? I mean, AI is coming, right? AI is coming in a massive way. Does the metaverse allow us to have a virtual doctor, right? Which is based on AI algorithms, right? And then when you do the physical operation, is there some way that the AI can help, and the metaverse can help that to happen in a different way? It's just opening up different perspectives on it. So I think that would be massive. But I also think the other areas will also be big. I think the health, there'll be regulations and things that will slow that down. But I think other forms of education and advertising and social media will move very quickly, because they're a natural evolution from where we are.
Absolutely. I mean, as they say, I think most people use the internet for socializing nowadays anyway, even though there are many other potential use cases. So I definitely see why it can go that way. I often find that these other industries are quite often overlooked, especially healthcare, because as we were saying before, augmented reality kind of intertwines our two realities. I don't feel like AI is ever going to replace doctors, just because I feel like there's a need for that collaboration, almost like a second opinion for safeguarding, because otherwise it could go so badly if AI were to get it wrong.
But
It's it's
you'd be surprised at how many people actually self-medicate now, right? The first thing they have some symptoms, they go on Google, they put it in. I did it myself. I had a problem with my foot, right? And I said, okay, this feels a bit strange. Let me put the symptoms in. 2 minutes, I had exactly what it was. And then I was able to go on YouTube and it had the exercises you do and I fixed it, right? You're not going to, now I'm not saying, I don't advise that for anyone, right? I'm crazy. But it's just showing if you can do that with simple search, what can you do with AI and metaverse immersive technology?
fantastic. Well, thank you very much, David. Really appreciate that. Had a great conversation and hope you enjoyed it as well. Well, that's a wrap for part two of our conversation with David Palmer, the blockchain lead at Vodafone. Be sure to stay tuned for weekly updates in the industry and content covering all things metaverse. Follow the Metaverse Insider on Twitter and LinkedIn, and visit metaverseinsider.tech for all our content. Thank you for joining us. Until next time.